picture this. The faint hum of the TV warming up, that crinkle of a cereal bag being ripped open, and just that electric feeling knowing hours of cartoons were stretched out ahead of you. If you grew up in the 70s or 80s, that Saturday morning image probably just, like, flashed right into your head, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's funny how strong those sensory things are, that sound, that smell.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a time capsule, straight back.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're taking a close look at, well, the whole cultural phenomenon of Saturday mornings in America, specifically the 70s and 80s.
Right.
We've got some really interesting material that looks at why this specific time holds such a strong nostalgic pull for so many people.
Yeah. It's more than just remembering cartoons, isn't it?
It is. It's trying to understand that shared cultural thing.
Exactly. And the sources we look through really highlight how those mornings were kind of built around these two main things.
Yeah.
The cartoons we couldn't wait for, and, well, the sugary cereal that powered the whole morning.
Ah, yes, the fuel.
It sounds simple, maybe, but there were some really interesting things going on beneath the surface.
And our goal here isn't just, a trip down memory lane, fun as that is. We want to understand what made these Saturday mornings feel so, I don't know, magical, and what kind of impact they actually had. It wasn't just a lazy start to the weekend. It was distinct, memorable. Okay, so let's dig in. What made Saturday mornings feel so different?
Well, one thing that really jumps out from the material is how Saturday morning became this almost sacred ritual for kids.
Ritual, yeah, that feels right.
It wasn't just free time. It was the time for kids' TV,
Okay.
and that rhythm, it kind of dictated the whole weekend for families,
Yeah, I remember that feeling, like the week built up to it.
Exactly. That anticipation all week, knowing Saturday morning was your time for fun, for fantasy.
You're so right. The waiting was key. And not like now where everything's on demand. Anytime, you had to wait. And that made it feel bigger. And the heart of this ritual, of course, were those cartoon blocks, carefully put together by the big networks, ABC, NBC, CBS.
Yeah, those networks had a lot of sway back then, didn't they? They basically set the menu for kids' entertainment across the country.
Totally.
And the sources remind us of some of the real heavy hitters. The Smurfs, obviously, Scooby-Doo, Super Friends. Even classics like the Flintstones were still a big deal for a lot of kids then.
Oh, man, just hearing the names, you can almost hear the theme songs, can't you?
Right.
And the sources make this point, which I think is spot on. These shows weren't just background noise. They felt like events.
Yes.
Kids talked about them at school, planned their mornings around catching specific ones. It was a real shared thing.
That shared experience is really interesting, actually. When you think about it, broadcast TV back then had this unique power to create these huge shared cultural moments. Fewer channels, fewer options.
Right. Everyone was watching the same stuff.
Pretty much. And through those cartoons, they were often maybe subtly weaving in little moral lessons or just introducing these really memorable, sometimes kind of weird characters that really fired up our imaginations and maybe even, helped shape our ideas about things in a small way.
Yeah, I can see that. Like the teamwork in Scooby-Doo, or you'd get environmental stuff in the Smurfs sometimes, or just simple good versus evil in Super Friends. And the name Hanna-Barbera, it comes up again and again in the material, doesn't it? They were behind so many of these iconic shows.
Oh, Hanna-Barbera was a powerhouse. Absolutely. Their style, their knack for creating characters that were just likable, instantly recognizable.
Yeah.
It really defined the whole look and feel of Saturday mornings for years.
They just knew it worked for kids.
They really did.
And the whole thing didn't just end when the credits rolled, did it?
Yeah.
The sources talk about how these shows spilled out into, like, everything. Toys, lunchboxes.
Oh, yeah, the merchandise.
Stickers, all that stuff. It was a whole ecosystem around these cartoons.
That's a good way to put it, an ecosystem. And what's interesting is how that merchandise sort of deepened the connection,
Oh, so?
Well, owning a Smurf figure or carrying a Scooby-Doo lunchbox.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about having a toy. It was like carrying a little piece of that Saturday morning magic with you all week.
Ah, yeah. Made it feel more real, maybe.
Exactly. It extended the whole experience beyond just those few hours in front of the TV.
Okay, so the cartoons were massive, huge draw, but the sources also make it really clear they weren't the only major player in this whole Saturday morning thing. Let's talk about, what do they call it? The cereal wars. Apparently, the cereal aisle was a, quote, battleground of sugary delights.
That's perfect, isn't it? And so true. The material really plays up the intense competition between the The big guys like Kellogg's and General Mills.
Fighting for our attention?
Totally. They were all fighting fiercely for the attention and, let's be honest, the nagging power of young kids watching those cartoons.
And how'd they do it? Well, the sources point to the obvious stuff. Super colorful boxes, those unforgettable mascots.
Right. Some almost as famous as the cartoon characters.
Then the ultimate hook. The promise of a toy inside the box. That little piece of plastic felt like treasure.
It really did. And if you think about it from a marketing angle, it was just brilliant. Genius, really. They knew exactly what caught a kid's eye, what would make them bug their parents for that specific box. The fun, the surprise, it worked.
And the commercials, the jingles, oh my gosh, who could forget those? The sources called them almost mesmerizing, and they kind of were.
They absolutely were.
Oh, so catchy.
They just made eating breakfast, especially these incredibly sweet cereals, feel like this amazing adventure.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, like, how much of our memory of those cereals is tied up in the feeling the ads created?
Good point.
Think about Fruit Loops, Cap'n Crunch, both mentioned in the sources. Just saying the names brings back the bright colors, the intense sweetness. Oh, definitely. And it was the whole package, wasn't it? Pouring out the colorful, weirdly shaped cereal, plopping down right in front of the TV.
Perfect cartoon fuel.
Exactly.
And that brings us right to another really key piece the sources highlight. The commercials themselves. They weren't just, annoying interruptions.
No.
They actually became like an integral part of the whole Saturday morning package. Sometimes almost as fun as the shows.
I totally agree. Think about those characters. Tony the Tiger. They're great. Or that poor Trix Rabbit, always getting shut down.
Yes.
The sources mention them specifically, and it's amazing how these tiny little ads just stuck with us for decades.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is the genuine fondness people still have for these commercials.
Yeah, it's not like we resent them for selling us stuff.
Not at all. They were part of the entertainment, part of that whole shared cultural experience we talked about.
And the sources talk about this symbiotic relationship, I think they called it, between the cartoons and the commercials.
Right. The cartoons pulled in the audience, the kids, and then the commercials introduced us to this whole world of wanting stuff, of consumerism, but all wrapped up like it was just fun and games.
Very clever.
Incredibly effective. It built brand awareness, even brand loyalty from a super young age. We started associating these products with the fun and excitement of our favorite shows, probably without even realizing it.
So, okay, when we put all these pieces together, the sort of sacred ritual of it all, the awesome cartoons, the sugary cereal, the catchy ads, what's the big picture? What's the main takeaway here?
I think the sources really nail it when they call 70s and 80s Saturday mornings a major cultural touchstone.
Cultural touchstone, yeah.
It was just so much more than just TV time. It arguably played a role in shaping a generation's values, maybe through the stories we watched. It definitely sparked creativity with all those characters and worlds, and it absolutely shaped our consumer habits.
No question there.
It was this really unique mix of imagination, clever marketing, and just the way culture worked back then. And it left a really lasting mark.
It really was this specific moment, wasn't it? Childhood wonder meets Madison Avenue, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
And speaking of interesting little connections, the sources share a great bit of trivia. Tony the Tiger, the Frosted Flakes voice?
Yeah.
Apparently he was originally voiced by a guy named Dallas McKennon, who also voiced Gumby.
No way. Gumby. That's fantastic.
Right.
That's such a cool link. Just shows how interconnected that whole voice acting world was back then. Adds another little layer of nostalgia, doesn't it?
It does. So, okay, we've taken this deep dive back into those cherished Saturday mornings. We've revisited the ritual, the cartoons that had us glued to the screen, cereal wars.
And maybe listening to this has sparked some of your own memories, Which cartoons did you race downstairs for? Which cereal was the ultimate treat? Maybe even a jingle that's now stuck in your head again.
Sorry about that.
It makes you think, though, how those simple things might have, in small ways, shaped who you are.
That's a really good point. And maybe it leads to one last thought for everyone listening. In today's world, which is so different, right? Everything's on demand, fragmented.
Very different.
How could we maybe intentionally bring back some of what made those Saturday mornings feel special? That sense of anticipation, that shared feeling, even if it was just knowing millions of other kids were watching too. That pure imaginative escape.
Yeah.
Can we find ways to create a bit of that magic in our lives now, even without the specific cartoons or maybe quite so much sugar? Something to think about anyway.